we're doing better as a result of social media presence.
If it doesn't do those three things, then it's on the chopping block.
It's a return on investment discussion.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Daily Dealer Live. I'm your host, Sam Dark, and back with us today co-hosting is the car dealership guy himself, Yossi. What's up?
Sam Dark, great to be here, man.
Good to have you. Good to be here with our entire Daily Dealer Live audience. And for those joining, as always, we are live across all CDG social media platforms. Post your comments today. We'll bring them into today's show. Your comments not only change the trajectory, but actually at a depth. It's super fun to see what will come up today and what a show we have in store for you, our audience, today. Coming up today, we've got Matt Bowers on an OEM Pulse, talk about plans he has within his auto group. Plus, we come back to the Michigan geography. Lafontaine joins a GM there to talk about underutilized incentives, talk about how he's bullish on a couple different OEMs, among which are Buick. We'll talk about that. But first, let's dive into today's biggest headlines. All right, first up today, you've heard this in the news. More than 300 Hyundai workers were detained in Georgia after a raid by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also known as ICE. They'll be sent home to South Korea. The raid hit Hyundai's $7.6 billion EV battery joint venture with LG Energy Solutions, where ICE alleged many of the workers had crossed illegally or overstayed visas. Officials in the South Korean capital of Seoul said they'll review visa systems for U.S. investment projects to prevent a repeat incident. Meanwhile, President Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, told CNN's Jake Tapper on State of the Union that more immigration raids like the one at the Hyundai plant could follow. What's the bottom line here? Well, President Trump's immigration enforcement could yield friction with global auto investment. Automakers risk raids, regulatory heat, and union scrutiny if they don't lock down those labor practices. Next up today, Tricolor Auto Group. They're a major used car chain and a subprime lender. They were taken over by an unidentified bank on Friday, suspending operations across Texas, Arizona, and California. Univision, Dallas, obtained HR documents showing 80 to 90% of staff placed on temporary leave with pay frozen, but health insurance intact. Employees were told they were fired, weren't fired, just dismissed until at least October 6th, when a decision will be made on who, if anyone, can return. By the way, that's fascinating to me. Hey, you're on leave, and we'll let you know a little bit later whether we're coming back, including they shot down corporate email. That's turned off. They're stating that their email systems are undergoing a, quote, internal procedure. And for customers, uncertainty is mounting. The Auto Group has issued over $5 billion in loans since 2007 across 65 retail centers, many targeting Hispanic borrowers who rely on ITINs, otherwise known as individual taxpayer identification numbers, rather than Social Security numbers. Thousands of active borrowers now face questions about servicing their loans and vehicles in repair. And immigration politics are adding fuel to this fire. President Trump's second-term crackdown has made Texas the epicenter of ICE arrests, raising fears for TAG's core customer base. While no direct link has been confirmed, the timing has heightened industry speculation that immigration enforcement could be destabilizing lenders serving these communities. Beneath the surface, TAG's model carried risks long before this raid: high loan-to-value ratios, elevated interest rates, and heavy exposure to credit-invisible borrowers. With defaults rising, other subprime lenders like Automotive Credit Corp earlier this month are already pausing origination, suggesting systemic strain across the sector. We at CDG News reached out to Tricolor Auto Group's press team for clarity on customer service continuity and loan transfer procedures, but we have yet to receive a response. We'll get back to you and
Sam,
update our audience once we get it.
I know you're not a
Yes.
Texas guy, but you got to bring the Tricolor.
Tricolor. Tricolor. I like that. That's a good.
That was the one. Former employee of mine used to tell me, like, I was like, oh, Tricolor. He's like, Tricolor.
Tricolor.
Like,
So you
okay.
know this auto group, Yossi. Is this a big deal?
I've heard of them. Yeah, they're a big deal in Texas. I mean, they're not a small group, but this was a scoop from the weekend. Actually, it was Friday night. People love doing these things on Friday nights, of course.
They think
everyone's
it buries.
out.
Yeah,
Of course.
Yeah.
So it's an unfortunate situation, clearly, but we don't really know the details yet, and no one has responded yet. So TBD.
Yeah. Well, Yossi, one of the most exciting features offered by CDG out there to our audience is the CDG Buy Sell Tracker. You can go to cdgbuySell.com for updates to that tracker and to follow M&A activity daily. And we've got one today for our audience. So Chris Turner sold Mid-Hudson Subaru, I'm going to get this wrong, in Wappingers Fall, New York, to VIP Automotive Group on September 4th, with all real estate included in the deal, this per Presidio Group. VIP now has 9 locations across Long Island, New Jersey, and New York, including 3 Subaru rooftops. We love Subaru, and plans to expand the shop and parking of this most recent acquisition to handle strong buyer demand. This marks Presidio's 3rd Subaru deal of the year, as the brand's growth streak keeps it a premium acquisition target for regional dealership groups. And again, anybody wanting to catch up on all the buy-sell M&A activity, go to cdgbuySell.com.
Sam, we need to make a jingle. The CDG.
We do.
CDGBuySell.com. We need to make a jingle for that. So we'll get that added in a couple episodes.
Let's do it. It's coming up. Watch out. All right, finally up today, General Motors has filed a patent. You're going to love this, Yossi, for tech that would generate a, quote, driver retirement score by monitoring elderly drivers' behavior, tracking things like reaction time, fatigue, turn signal use, traffic sign compliance, and even honks from other motorists. The system could create reports recommending when a driver should stop driving and, if enabled, notify family members. However, a patent doesn't guarantee the feature will ever make it to market. What's the big picture here? It's another sign of how automakers are looking to expand vehicle data collection into areas far beyond mobility, raising new questions about privacy. Yeah, you think? Oversight and the role of tech in tracking driver behavior. Do you know what this makes me think of? 2 things. Number one, have you ever driven down the road in a rental car or whatever, and you get that little beeping thing that says, hey, it's time to take a rest? And it's not necessarily that. You just might be driving distracted, right? So all of a sudden, if I'm 70 years old, am I going to be told I can't drive anymore because I had a couple bad days of, those little alerts? And then 2, in populations of older communities, are you going to see a wave of people unable to drive? Like, this is fascinating to me.
We'll see if people will still be driving, and by when. I mean, at this pace technology is going, it feels like, more and more of these vehicles are going, adding autonomous features, and whatnot. So TBD.
Yeah. So maybe it'll say, hey, you can't drive anymore, but I will. And then the car will just take over and do its own thing. Fascinating.
There you go.
So Yossi, you and I both get, and our entire teams at CDG, a ton of requests from auto dealers wanting to join the show to share opinions and viewpoints about all things automotive. Having that voice is important to us here at the Daily Dealer Live, and we've got a place for you to go, cdgguest.com. Go there, fill out the intake form. You'll get the chance to meet Michelle, who handles all of our scheduling. She'll have a quick call with you to talk about topics, viewpoints, and vet you to bring you onto the show. So if you have an interest in joining the show, please go there and fill out the intake form to join. Again, cdgguest.com. All right, first up today, let's turn without further ado to the owner of Matt Bowers Auto Group. Matt Bowers, welcome to the show.
Hey guys.
Matt Bowers, welcome. We can.
Good to be here.
How you feeling, Matt?
I'm good. I'm very good. It's another week. It's like Groundhog's Day. Every day is sort of like the same day. People ask me what I'm doing. I tell them everything. Right? What are you doing? Everything.
How's biz, Matt?
It's not bad. It's I guess it's brand by brand. It's a little different. But But overall, like I'd said before on the show, we're having a better year this year than we did last year overall. Not that we don't have our bad days or weeks or off months here and there and stuff like that. We do. But overall, our business at my particular dealership group is better than last year for a variety of reasons, I suspect.
Matt, what's driving that performance primarily?
Probably consistency, in some, I'm a group that promotes a lot of people. I've discussed that before. We promote a lot of people. So if that is your philosophy, if your philosophy is to start with a core group of people and then add process and then promote around that, unless you do something to change any of that formula, theoretically, you should get better year after year after year as the people gain experience and as your processes are passed down from one group to the next, over time. I think that's a little bit to do with it probably.
Matt, you've been involved in lots of buy-sell activity recently, whether buying or selling. Can you give us an update on what you're working on?
A lot. I sold a dealership recently in Alabama, in South Alabama, which I've sold dealerships before for a variety of reasons. This one I sold, which led to a bunch of stuff that I forgot about when you sell a dealership. I had a lot of people call me and ask me if I was selling everything or, this, that, and the other stuff like that. And it was just really a decision I made. It was a Nissan dealership in a town, in my opinion, that had too many Nissan dealerships. And it was it was an area that I wasn't particularly interested or able the way I wished to grow in over time. And so I sold it to the perfect people, which would be the people right next door to me who own a lot of stuff there. That's their home base, their core area. So it was, an accretive deal for them and their company. And it, allowed me to go do some other stuff. So I'm doing, right now I have three pending, I have 3 APAs in 3 different states, actually, which is sort of I wouldn't say a philosophical shift, but it's as you do this, you learn. I learned, and I've said before when Yossi interviewed me, I sort of told my story. I gave people like, here's don't buy stores that are too little, right? Like, don't do that. I don't care if I say that a million times. Some dude's going to buy some store that's too little tomorrow and tell me why. I'm gonna draw from some town I've never heard of and from some other place I've never heard of, and it's like, all right, just go buy a real good store, right? So, but don't do that. I don't like buying stores that are in neighborhoods that add complexity, let's call it, or let's just call it out dangerous neighborhoods. Okay, everybody has a chance to do that. I did that, and I choose to not do that if I can avoid that. And then I don't like buying stores in towns that stores have been sold over and over and over. Like, you get the package on the store and it's got temporary banners on the package, and then you go to Google and it's got the last dude, and then it's like, some are like that. But one mistake I made that I can, I come on here and I tell the truth as I see it. I tell the truth, okay? And some of that sounds good for me, and some of it, quite frankly, doesn't, okay? But I respect our business enough and the people in it. Why am I going to sit up here and say a bunch of stuff that's not exactly the truth? I'm going to tell people the truth because somebody might find themselves in the same situation that I'm in right now. There was no roadmap to success when I started doing this. The dealers that I looked to for mentorship, they looked at me like the competition, right? So they wouldn't tell me the truth, So I did too many deals in one area, I would say, one geographic area. And what happens when you do that, I mean, good things happen. Like, I get good tables at restaurants all over where I'm from, I go to the Circle K, and the cashier at the Circle K will know who I am. My ex-girlfriends are probably very jealous of me and whatnot, but you sort of run out of people over time. Okay, depending on the city that you're in, you run out of people. Okay, and it also limits, I would say, your overall possibilities later. What I should have done is I should have done, stores where I'm at in a platform setting, and then maybe gone to do 3 or 4 other platforms, as time went on. And then over the length of time I own them, you know how it is. Some will identify themselves as being easier to run than others. And then you sort of focus in on those. And that's what I should have done for a variety of reasons. When you do too many deals in one area, you take on risk that you don't need to take on, but you do it voluntarily. I did it. And the reason why people do that, I found out, is just it's ego, and that's a lot to do with it.
Do you think that is so you're talking about concentration of stores right now in markets.
Yeah.
And I think do you think that this is just some bias from your personal experience, or do you think this is like a truism in the industry? Because one could make the case, you dominate a specific market or region, that concentration is actually to your benefit. You get more operating leverage. Do you not see that? And also I want to follow up that with, are you signaling that you may be having more transitions on the horizon if that's a strategy that you're not in favor of moving forward?
Everybody's experience is their own. And yeah, you can dominate a certain area, but at some point, it takes a really good dude to run a Volkswagen dealership. And I'm not picking on Volkswagen. You could pick a brand for me, Mazda, Volkswagen, any of these, any brand like that. It takes a good dude to run that, just like it takes a good dude to run a big Chevrolet or Ford or Toyota or whatever. So you have to use up a good piece on something like that versus some other thing that has higher possibilities to make money for you. Okay. And so I'm just saying, in the area that I'm in specifically, there's not, I don't know how good the other dealer, you run out of people. Let's leave it like that without getting myself into a tremendous.
So Matt, you, other than regional concentration and diversification, are you thinking about additional brand diversification? Or
No.
ask differently, what brands are you looking at?
No, my philosophy on that, right? My philosophy on that hasn't changed. I look at deals very simply. I look at deals on their face and say, what is going to return me the most money in the shortest length of time? And then assuming that all brands are cyclical in nature, which they've proven to be. Okay. Subaru is extremely hot right now. Like, you couldn't give away a Subaru dealership in the South 10 years ago. You know what I mean? So Hyundai, Kia, these were not major players 10 years ago, and there will be other people that emerge over time. So for me, I look at it very simply as what is going to bring me the most value. It's my own money. See, to me, it's my own balance sheet and a bank. It's just that simple. Okay. I also, which is very unique, I think, the way I think, I don't look at dealerships and say, okay, I'm buying this dealership for $6 million and it's going to be worth $20 million when I'm done. I assume all of them will be worth $0 when I'm done. Okay. That's the way I prefer to look at them. It keeps you from speculating. It keeps you from building in assumptions that you can't influence or control. I can only influence how I run the store. I can't influence the decisions that the car manufacturer is going to make, which could dictate their future value and stuff like that. Like, I see dudes do that. When people talk about, trying to balance my portfolio, I don't look at it like a portfolio. these are all unique individual deals that got to work on their face. People that talk like that are not typically dealing with their own money. So yeah, guys like me, when I go compete, and this still remains the truth, I've never been in a competitive setting to buy a car dealership. You know, like here's a broker, here's a car dealership, here's an offering memorandum, and I'm going to send it out to the biggest guys in the region or the country. I've never been in a situation where I had more money than the other people looking at it. Not one time in my career, and I suspect not ever. So if that's the case, I'm forced to make educated bets on what I'm looking at. Timing has to do with that, but I have to make bets because I have to be able to know things and take advantage of situations that other people might not notice or see. Okay, whether that's a geographic area that I know of or a brand that I might have certain insight into that I believe is correct. And so if you think you have an advantage, you need to try to take advantage of that advantage. And that would be my only advantage, is just understanding the day-to-day car business better than some of the people I compete against.
Matt, in the span of the next 3 to 5 years, do you see your group becoming more diversified or more concentrated? You clearly favor diversification.
Yeah.
And will that come by way of divestitures or acquisitions?
I think both can be true. And I just speak the truth, right? You know what I mean? If I say the word divestiture or sell, my phone will not stop ringing, okay, for the next week, okay? You know what I mean? And so, but I think either could be true. I think that I'm looking for stores that make an impact to me financially, to the people around me. And I'm looking to not be involved with stuff that's a pain in my ass, quite frankly. Okay, even if it's in my hometown or even if it's whatever. Okay, people, you'd be amazed of the justifications that people, you know, I make mistakes, believe me. I don't get it all right. I mean, look at my first wife, mistake. Okay, look at you know, I've made other mistakes. Okay, right. So it's not like I'm infallible over here. I think the difference between me and some others, when I make a mistake, I recognize it and I move on quickly.
So
I don't care how.
Can I just add one thing? I think the reason people listen to you and you tend to ruffle lots of feathers is because you say the truth. You say the truth. And I think because you say the truth, you've built a reputation that when you say something, it carries weight. And so when you post about different things or chat about different topics, there's a reason some people feel uneasy about it, because you're saying in many parts the quiet part out loud. Sam, you were going to say something?
Well, I was just going to pressure test both sides of this. So, Matt, you're saying, hey, on one side, I want to avoid stores and situations that are a complete pain in the ass. Who are those? Where are those? What are those? And then I'm going to ask the question of insights, but go with the pain in the ass. What are you avoiding today in the marketplace in 2025?
What am I avoiding? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm avoiding. Okay, well, to know what a pain in the ass looks like, you have to have been part of one. Okay,
Yeah.
and then said, how did you? Okay, and all of them share the same common things, in my opinion. It usually starts with some obligation I feel to do this. This could start with the car manufacturer a lot of times. Like, look, I've been in a situation where I need the car manufacturer's help. You know, I want to be a good partner of theirs, which means sometimes taking on challenges, you know, in their network. You know, that's how I've built a reputation. I didn't say, okay, what's the easiest stores? What is a problem for you? I'm going to go fix it and you're going to go get promoted. Okay, right? Like, that is how this is going to work. Okay, I would be like dealer network gone right. Okay, that's the hope. Well, sometimes you just don't have the ability to deal with certain things. So car dealerships that I've been part of, that I'm no longer part of, were either brought to me by the car manufacturer and they were in some dire straits, or I have 3 other facility projects to do and here's a 4th. Okay, you know, and I just don't have the ability and the team to get to it anytime soon. So what happens is you do it and you don't get to it soon, and then it becomes a point of contention. So, or I feel like it's in my hometown or in some area that I'm known to be in, and I feel an obligation to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Mainly to satisfy my own ego, to be real about it. Um, you know,
Now, go ahead,
So,
Sam.
so some interesting comments coming on. Brett Sutherland says, I agree 100% with what you're saying. Nate, the truck driver, first wife made me cackle. And then somebody flipped you a little bit of shit on the reverse side. She probably thought he was the mistake. So that's a reference to your earlier first. But it is interesting. Uh-oh, now I lost Matt. Hopefully I didn't make him upset with that one. But it's interesting to me, Yossi. Matt talks about how these OEMs cycle over time. And it is interesting. We see that historically. And I would love to get Matt's perspective on, as in the cycle and churn of OEMs, there are probably ones that he believes in more and feels more comfortable with and more confidence in. He even just talked about this. He's willing to take a project from an OEM, engage in that project with the support of the OEM, and turn around a bad situation. So Matt is not afraid of hard work. He's not afraid of getting his hands dirty. I'm curious, in today's marketplace, in that churn and that cycle of OEMs, how does he find the opportunity? I think that's what would be fun to get
And
from
yeah,
him.
and we'll see if we get him back on. But I think in addition to that, as I mentioned, he comes on and he says the truth. And I think people really respect that. And I think that's why when he had a conversation about, at the time was sale leasebacks, then he had a conversation about private equity backed buyers acquiring dealerships. He had various opinions on both topics, but in both situations, there was lots of outreach to him, and just lots of things happen behind the scenes. And because people do, his word does carry weight. Whereas you and I both know there's lots of operators in our industry that are not as candid and are not willing to say it how it is.
There's risk in this industry in being totally candid, being vulnerable. You give up, sometimes I think you could argue you give up some of your edge, your competitive edge. I think folks would agree. But that's the purpose of this, is sharing those insights right here.
I think so obviously it's self-serving, but I do think that if you play long-term enough, you do gain a bigger edge. And the reason I say this is because I see with several people that have come on our platform and others, where it creates a very virtuous flywheel for you. You get talent is attracted to you. Suddenly you're offering information. People want to work with you. There's a thing about trust that is contagious and attractive, and people want to work with people that are trustworthy. And so if on a long enough time horizon, I do think it's in your benefit to be open, honest, and authentic. And I do believe we just got Matt back on, so we will get him here in just a second.
Was that me?
Oh, there you are. Yeah.
That was I'm not sure what that was, but let's just keep the conversation going. So we did lose it for a second there. Matt, I want to ask you about Stellantis. Is this a brand you are in the midst of acquiring? Do you have any deals on that? Are you interested? Then I want to transition to Stellantis Carvana, something that you and I had also spoken about. What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we left off, we were talking about making certain bets on stuff like that. And I think right now, like I'm a buyer of Stellantis stores. I have 2 under contract right now and 2 more with offers, I think, that are viable offers. So if I can get in, let's say, an A market, right? Like, an A market with a brand that's, I think Stellantis's troubles were, I think last year, maybe at the end of last year, right before NADA, in my opinion, was when sort of bottom happened.
The bottom.
This year, my particular store is having a good year. There's been some issues with car flow and stuff like that, but my store, and again, I have a good store in a good town, I do know that, but I think overall, I think there's a lot of positive indications out of them to be a car dealer, like for the next decade, let's say. I think they're going to bring back models that are going to add maybe 20 to 30% to their overall volume, which they deleted by their own doing. in the last couple of years. So yeah, I'm a buyer of Stellantis stores. I would call them A markets or good towns. Okay.
Mm-hmm. When you think about the strategy of Carvana acquiring that Stellantis store, which we briefly discussed, I spoke about it on the platform several times. What's your perspective on something like that, and what it could mean for the future?
I mean, it's the least surprising thing ever, in my opinion. Carvana is there's a lot of vertical integrations in their company via auctions, via the used car platform, and effectively, I think there's more conversations than you know of, that we're talking about. I don't think it's just Stellantis. I think that they have people, I suspect, I don't know, I have no insight at all into Carvana or anything like that. So I'm just purely speculating out here. I would bet, it would be a good bet too, that Carvana has people working daily, weekly with network people from car manufacturers. And I would also bet that they're not looking to get their foot in the door. They're looking for major metros. They're looking for Phoenix, right? Like, so if you called a network guy, a car manufacturer, and said, hey, what do you have that you think I could buy? He's probably going to give you the stuff that he knows that's the easiest stuff. Like, here's this little guy in this little bitty town you never heard of. They're coming to them proactively and saying, okay, these are towns we want to be in. We want to be in Texas, sure. We want to be in Dallas, Texas, Dallas-Fort Worth, or Houston, Texas. We want to be in Arizona, but we want to be in Phoenix, right? Like, they are smart enough to understand what I was talking about earlier. They're trying to do major metros with towns with big populations where they can be the most effective with the advantages that they currently have. The question is that, I think the car manufacturers' framework agreements are going to come into play here. How dedicated are the car manufacturers to actually enforcing those framework agreements, or, learning from the past, let's say, is one thing. And the second thing is that, it's sort of a risky move that I think that Carvana is doing, because when you go publicly and you go try to go buy car dealerships, that's going to get a lot of more eyeballs on what you're doing. So it's almost like being in the Mafia, where like the old school Mafia guys, they didn't do anything. They didn't dress fancy, right? They weren't out there. Okay. They're about to be really out there if they do this, which is going to put them under greater scrutiny, let's say. And it's also going to open the door for a lot more people to try to copy what they're doing, quite frankly, which somebody will have success with, I'm assuming.
What's your prediction, Matt? When do these acquisitions start to fall, if this happens? And I know you don't have an inside track, but if you had to guess.
I would say now. I would say, from what I know, it's not like they're looking forward to doing this maybe at some point in the future. If they could put them in stores in Dallas, Texas, I think they'd do it tomorrow. So in what other brands? I don't think it's just, there's no easy brand, sometimes like anything else, when the brand is having a cycle, a down part of their cycle, their rules become more relaxed, let's call it, right? You know what I mean? Like, they become more flexible and open to ideas. So there's the obvious people that have had a tough year or two the last couple of years, but I don't think it's restricted to them. I think Carvana would buy any mainline brand there is. I think those conversations are happening right now, in fact. That's what
it's an interesting point you make if this happens and Carvana gets a big piece of any OEM, framework agreement aside. It almost turns into a direct-to-consumer model if they get enough of one OEM, right? Is that a risk?
I don't know that that's going to happen. Again, the framework agreements, when they were instituted a long time back, were meant to prevent that. And I mean, private dealers deal with framework agreements. I deal with them, in certain towns, brands. Yeah. So, I mean, but if you think about it, they have a lot of synergy, but it's the time old adage here. Okay. If it was just who had the most money, right, or the most scale, we would all be out of business. AutoNation would have put us out of business a long time ago.
Warren Buffett, right?
What's that?
Or a Warren Buffett. I mean, there
Correct.
are deep pockets. Yeah.
It is a big fragmented industry. Okay. And then you have to have people to deal with customers. Okay. Right. You're talking about, Carvana does a lot of business. You're talking about doing a different kind of business now in scale, dealing with manufacturer warranties. Like, who do they have to deal with that? Who do they have to go collect? I mean, the simplest part of the car business is selling used cars, quite frankly. Like, you sell them in one piece, you get paid in one piece. There's not 20 ways to get paid. New cars, I've shown people outside of this industry what that looks like. This is what this looks like. Here's the money we have to have. Here's the money we pay. And this is how we get paid back. And people are like, yeah, no, pass. I don't want to do this. Like, it's complicated. So they're going to have to get all that stuff right with effectively no learning curve at all. Could they do it? Yeah. But I mean, look, finishing 4th place in Phoenix isn't like scaring the shit out of people or not like that. You know what I mean? So let's go see them do it and do it right. But I think they're going to get their chance. I think I'm going to end up competing against them along with a lot of other people. And my plan is just the same plan I've had with everybody else is with them. I'm going to take what they do good and I'm going to try to rip it off and implement it. And then I'm going to take what they don't do well or what they can't do well, and I'm going to live right there.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. And I'm not talking about sponsoring Little League baseball teams either.
Yeah.
No, if they got somebody good, I'm going to go hire them. Stuff like that. So that's what they have to look forward to.
Yeah. Well, Matt Bowers, owners of Matt Bowers Auto Group, we appreciate you being on the show to share your perspective. I just have one last question. I have to ask this. This is from earlier. You mentioned the cycle of these OEMs, right? And we see that. You mentioned your ability to go after a project in partnership with an OEM to turn a store. Is there one or two OEMs in today's market, September of 2025, that you would run towards that with? Because maybe if struggling, they've got the right idea. I mean, Chrysler Stellantis is one. You've mentioned it. Is there any other?
Look, that was the age-old model that the car manufacturers had. They needed guys like me.
Yeah.
I could tell you other stories. I could tell you during COVID, I had one car manufacturer come to me and tell me, hey, I'm trying to do you a favor. We don't need you to do us a favor, right? We have people lined up around the corner to be our dealer, right? Like, there was a time period where car manufacturers needed people like me, quite frankly, or a lot of others, to go fix their most difficult network problems to their favor, reposition stores, stuff like that.
Less so today.
There's stuff we didn't talk about. There's there's a lot more money being thrown at this industry via institutional capital and other stuff, and there's a lot more competition on the dealer side. There's a lot more people wanting to be in the car business in retail automobiles than there ever has been, in my opinion.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, I mean, other brands I'm bullish on, I think General Motors for sure. I like the domestics. I like where this is. I like how this is lining up now. Will they be able to execute and come together? I don't know, but I can tell you this: they have a great opportunity. Right?
Yeah,
they have an advantage if they choose to take the advantage. They ran towards the EV, thing from during COVID. If they really take the administration, the philosophy, if they take that and run with it and embrace it, they have a chance to get ahead where there's some other car manufacturers that are going to have greater problems, I'd say.
And on that, Matt Bowers, again, we appreciate you being here, sharing your perspectives, being, as Yossi, you say, 100% candid about everything automotive and your experience growing your automotive empire. So, Matt Bowers, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Anytime, y'all. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
It's a fascinating convo. It always is with
Yeah, Matt's always great. And he's always moving. He's always moving.
Yeah.
I mean, he's always got a buyer, a seller, something going on. So it's always interesting with Matt.
And you know what's interesting is when we talk to him, you can tell he is candid. He's saying what he's thinking, but there's also always a lot of stuff going on. Like he's churning. There's a lot of ideas, right? There's a lot of things going on in his
Nonstop.
mind. So, all right, let's talk Dealer Pay, Yossi. Dealer Pay designed to increase productivity and customer retention. Dealer Pay is a dealer-specific payments acceptance solution with over 25 years of experience as a trusted payments partner for dealerships across the United States. Visit dealer-pay, dealer-pay.com / to learn more. And we appreciate Dealer Pay for supporting today's content, everything brought to you from Matt Bowers all the way down today. So thank you, Dealer Pay.
Thank you, Dealer
for
Pay.
supporting the
Dealer
show.
Pay is doing some great things. Big supporter.
Yep. All right, so now, Yossi, we turn back to Michigan, which is where I am right now, high atop our Honda store in Kalamazoo, Michigan. We turn to the other side of the state, the Detroit metro area, to bring on Andrew Ruck, General Manager of Lafontaine Cadillac, Buick, GMC of Highland. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. That was a great transition talking about GM and their opportunities.
Yeah. So speaking of which, right? So before we ask, or actually let's ask how's biz, and as part of that, maybe tell our audience a little bit about yourself and the group you work with.
Absolutely. So business has been phenomenal. Again, much similar to Matt's, looking at a great year this year. We're on a 4-5 month consecutive just growth after growth this year, but much better than last year, trying to get back to those near COVID numbers, but definitely much more sustainable for the future. But actually have several connections to several people that you've had on. Actually started at Mercedes-Benz with Doug Horner, Benz and Bow Ties.
Benz and Bow Ties, yeah.
Yeah. And then was recruited up to Michigan. So I've been here for 8 years with the Lafontaine Automotive Group, all here at their largest location.
And you are, at that location, the #1 Buick store. You've achieved that accomplishment. Your top 5 Cadillac, top 10 GMC nationally. Tell us about Buick, #1. How'd you get there? And what do most dealers not know in September of 25 about Buick that maybe they should rethink?
Absolutely. Ryan Lafontaine, our owner, he's very bullish on up-and-coming brands. In fact, when Pontiac went out of business, we were #1 in the country in Pontiac. It was our first year, and then the franchise was gone. So much following into that, how do you replace Pontiac? So Buick became a primary focus at that point. And since then, it's just been growing year after year. In fact, 8 of the last 10 years, we've been #1 in Buick. And just very bullish on the brand. It fits in a very specific part of the GM portfolio. It's affordable, it's luxury. They always come with a large amount of standard equipment. So it fits the general market well. And it's a brand that has seen its ups and downs over the years. And it really is just bringing the consumer to the brand and showing them what Buick's really about.
Very cool. So it's interesting. You are, as a general manager, you are on site. You roll up your sleeves. You're one of the GMs that works every day. You live in the different departments in sales, service, parts, body shop. Tell us a little bit about your schedule for those GMs and dealers listening that are wanting to end up being #1 at GMC, top 10 in your other brands as well. How do you balance those different demands in different departments? What does the Monday look like and your week look like to balance those?
So what I always train my team on is make sure you get all 12 hours in a 12-hour day. So it's making sure that every minute counts, and it's starting early. The service department's easy. Park near your service department, walk through your service department when you come in, talk to your technicians, talk to your advisors. It's really easy to start your day if you're starting on the fixed side and the service side. And then those morning huddles, get everybody ready for the day. Whatever's transitioning, make sure everybody knows about it. And then at that point, just kind of settling in for the day and getting into your normal routine. So for me, it's always variable. I came up with variable sides. So that's the easiest. Most general managers get stuck there. So I try to get in and out of the variable side as quick as possible between new and used in the 3 different brands that we have at this store. And then it's moving on to body shop has been my #1 growth point that I've been focusing on this past year. So really digging into their numbers, seeing how many cars are being dropped off, how many are being returned. And then for us, it's been developing relationships. I mean, body shop dealerships that have those, it's been a rough year. I mean, you look across the industry, claims are down, repairs are down. Body shops, they're not an easy part of the business. So for me,
Hey, wait, Andrew, I was gonna say, what are you doing to grow collision business right now, though, specifically? Because you did mention you're investing in that, yet it's been a tough year. So how are you growing that?
So it's really just boots on the ground, hand to hand. It's all those basics that we forget about over the years. So we realized that we were not seeing the return. Our customers were getting repairs. An easy way to track it is when you get gap claims. If I get a gap claim and that car wasn't in my body shop, then I've got a huge breakdown.
That's
so
a problem.
Yeah. That was the first one that we identified. So put signage up at the store. My body shop's offsite. We've put a lot of money in advertising. We have a mobile body shop van. So every customer that comes through my service department, we're looking at scratches. We're looking at small repairs. We either do them on site or we'll send a mobile body shop van that we put together that services our own stores, but also services our customers in the community. And then just getting out to the insurance agents, tow companies. It's really simple when you deep dive it and see what all the connections are.
Do you do EVs in the body shop?
Oh, yes. That was a huge commitment.
So we reported last week on CDG News the fact that EVs are, I think it was 20-30% more expensive than gas engines to repair. And that leads to increased cost of insurance and whatnot. What are you seeing as a trend in EVs and repairs there that maybe other dealers could capitalize on as well?
Yeah, I mean, it requires a huge investment to start with. So getting your return on that, you'll have to figure out what it looks like. But a lot of these, depending on where you're at, these EV manufacturers, they're struggling to find body shops that they can work with. And they really want to stick with their OEM partners. So, we noticed specifically with Polestar, for example, they can go to the outside, the third-party body shops, but they really wanted to find a dealer connection. So that was one. I mean, we're pulling from multiple states, and the insurance companies and the manufacturers are picking up those funds to get them to a place that's going to repair them correctly. So,
yeah. So you're managing and leading all these departments. I wanted to ask a little bit about how you interact with the dealer principal, Ryan, because you've got a ton of different rooftops. And as we get into that, is there one KPI or metric in your store, again, a top 10 store, number one in Buick, that predicts a successful month better than any others as you look at creating that net result at the end of the month?
Yeah. So Ryan, one of his home bases, he has several over the state. We're all in Michigan. All 57 franchises that we have are all here in Michigan. But luckily,
wow, 57? I didn't know that.
57 franchises.
They're big. Yeah.
Top 25, I believe, in the country. So we're just a quiet little family-owned dealership that stays in Michigan and kind of keeps to ourselves. But no, so one of Ryan's home bases is here. So it's 10 feet above my office. Go up the stairs. He passes. If he can be in the middle of anything, he will be. So if there's a conversation going on, an interview, he's extremely hands-on, and I'm very fortunate. But with that also comes the microscope too. So as a big group, there's that fine line between running as a corporation and running independently. And I get the autonomy with this store to do that. So normally it's Ryan, I just spent some more of our money, or got this really great idea. What are your thoughts? And then we set up some time to talk about it. But for me, I think the biggest paradigm shift for us was, we were always celebrating wins and number ones and highest profits. It was really when we moved to, what did we miss? So how many cars didn't we sell? How many ROs didn't come through the shop? So once we started finding that, there's lots of little statistics. Once we dug into it, I have more customers coming into my service department that I didn't sell than I do sell. So it's all these little tiny pieces that are adding that growth to the store.
I think you're making a good point. It's like survivorship bias, right? What are we, to your point, we're looking at what we sold, but we should be looking at what we didn't sell, because that's what needs to work. That's where we need to figure out what went wrong. What we sold it's done, right? Things worked out there. That's a very good point. That's simple, yet it's profound, because more businesses need to be doing that.
Yeah, and GM even it's now a requirement as part of their manufacturer program to pick up a small additional percent. They actually have a program, the Sales Alert, where they actually come back and tell you if it went into your CRM and they bought somewhere else. They love telling you that they went somewhere else. So that's been another deep dive to help add on to that metric.
So your number one Buick, but your top 10 Cadillac and GMC, your other brands. Is there anything that Buick is getting really right that you would transition or translate across to your other brands, or recommend that the OEM did?
Buick, I will tell you, as a brand, from the top down, it's a very hands-on brand. We spend a lot of time in dealer meetings, even our local marketing area. When we meet, the president comes in, meets with us. It's very hands-on. Even when we're doing everything from the dealer awards, Brian passes those on to me, so I get to have one-on-one time with the General Motors executives. And Buick, you can just tell that they're paying attention, right? You've seen the transitions over the years. I think it was 2 years ago, they were the number one selling as a percentage female-based brand. Now they've taken over as one of the number one as far as age goes. So you're seeing that the dependability and the pricing is speaking volumes. And even when it comes down to their newest initiative has been subprime and first-time buyers. So that's a GM Financial backed program. They're buying extremely deep when it comes to both of those, and they've got very minimal requirements for it. So I think just Buick, you can tell, is on the leading edge of General Motors, and they've done a phenomenal job of giving us the feedback that we need. And that completely revamped lineup has been a huge help. I don't know if you've seen a Buick Envista before, but not many people can recognize it on the street. So once they figure out it's a Buick, it's pretty easy to sell after that.
I'd love to also know about Cadillac. I know you're also a strong Cadillac dealer, and we haven't talked much of it on the platform. Curious to know how you're performing there, what's working, what's not working.
Yeah, Cadillac very similar. So we've seen a lot of growth. Actually, us and another dealer group are competing in the state of Michigan always for number one in our region, and then staying in that top five. And a lot of it has come down to Cadillac has seen a lot of growth on its side as well. Again, with the EV push, it's been a huge conquesting opportunity. So, EV, for all the things that it is and it isn't, for Cadillac, it's been a huge conquest opportunity. So we're getting a lot of new people into the Cadillac showrooms that we haven't seen before. So you think of the other EV nameplates that are out there, they attract a different buyer. And I think it's really helped the Cadillac brand create that awareness and bring people into the showrooms that for us has been a huge success.
Andrew, a couple questions from online. Brian Benstock, he says, do you feel that your experience with Buick has made you a better dealer with your other franchises? Would you say your Buick experience has improved your result everywhere else, GMC, Cadillac, others?
Yeah, for us, it's always market share. So where can we find it? That mid-level, small SUV size market has always been a huge brand or group of vehicles that people chase after. Buick is one where you've really got to pay attention. The marketing dollars really matter. So I've spent more time diving into market segments and growth shares just to make sure that we're finding the right pieces. And then same with demographics too. I mean, as you get these feedbacks, Buick's been very good about telling you who your buyers are. So making sure that you're getting your fair share of those buyers, and then finding those outlying demographics that might fit close to what they're already seeing.
I'll also add, as someone who has never considered an electric SUV, when I saw the Cadillac Escalade IQ, I mean, I've done a triple take at this point. I'll be honest with you. And I asked a friend of mine who owns one, said, "Hey, what is that like? And how do you like it?" He's just was raving about it. This guy's pretty critical. So I'm very impressed. Right? I might have to have a conversation with you after the podcast. But in all seriousness, it's something that's been, you're right when you're talking about conquesting and customers that traditionally buy EVs. Like I'm sort of exhibit A. I don't own one, but I can tell you that it definitely taps into a new market because the range is just unbelievable. You don't have to think about that stuff. And, it's super quiet, great performance, and the thing looks really, really sharp.
Yeah. Cadillac has done a phenomenal job, and it's another one where you get somebody in the vehicle and they drive it, and the rest kind of takes care of itself. So the second one would be the Vistic.
But that's a huge endorsement from car dealership guy GM. I know you're listening. Send me one.
Sold.
Hey, so Andrew, one other question as we get towards the end of our time here. Lauren Klein online said that's a very competitive market for GM, very competitive. And to be fair, the Detroit metro area is a different marketplace in auto sales overall. How is it different, and how have you adapted your kind of style as general manager or your team style to accommodate the marketplace?
Yeah, especially where I am. I'm in a little tiny patch, and Ford is number one where I am. So I've really have to expand, and our dealer motto is yes, no matter what it is. This many people don't live here. We've really got to sell outside of our market to make sure that we get those. But, lease penetration in the Detroit market's up over 50, 60%.
That's
so
wild.
Really, really special times. I mean, it can get above 70%. So there's a lot of competition. Everybody works for one of the big three. So, how do you get longtime Ford buyers into a GM? It's really all about process. And it's everything from, hunting's huge in Michigan. So the opening night, we have ladies' night. We bring all the wives in, and we normally put Buick around that so they can test drive. We wine and dine them, and then it's those little tiny touches that make the difference. But it really is that hands-on approach. You've got to be every single car, every single customer, every single time.
So turning a little bit to your lead generation size as we wrap up here, just a couple, maybe 20 seconds or less. Do you have a BDC? How big is your BDC? What are they slated? What's their responsibility? And then I'll ask an AI question. BDC.
Yeah. So for us, it's 4 people at this particular store, and they really run behind the sales staff. So for us, during COVID, we relied too much on the BDC. We pulled back, went back to the sales staff so that we could have that more hands-on approach, just making sure nothing falls through the cracks.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of talk in our world right now, AI-driven technologies that help us deliver our best selves to our customers. Is there anything that's interesting to you in the AI tech world, whether it's BDC, sales, or Bolton? What does your tech stack look like that way?
It's as complicated as it can get. And I got to thank you guys for the show. The AI bots, I watched that episode last week, and it sent me down a rabbit hole. Wait,
which one did you watch?
That was the one where you had the marketing manager that was talking about if your website.
Daniel Kim, maybe. Daniel Kim.
I think so. I believe so.
We've done a couple, but they I can tell by the listens what dealers are trying to kind of learn from, and because obviously all the episodes do great to get lots of listens, but some episodes do outperform. And you can see by the trend line, like this piqued people's interest. This one's particularly educational, etc. So.
Yeah, as much as you can get on your tech stack and AI, that sent me down a rabbit hole. I've got an outside person coming in to look at all of ours because it's the wave of the future. And I got to tell you, I mean, even in my personal life, I've started adopting it. And you're using AI in ways that you've never used it before. And AI has also helped us bring down that BDC as well. So we use a lot of the tools that you suggest on your podcast as well. We've ran through quite a few of them. So. Awesome. We've got them in every piece.
Well, and I think you're smart to be a little bit skeptical and to adopt it as you see the use case, not search for a solution in search of a problem, but rather find creative and interesting ways to implement it and adopt it. So Andrew Ruck, General Manager, Lafontaine, appreciate you being on the show. Thanks for joining us and sharing your perspectives today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you. Fascinating. There were a couple of interesting comments that came in online. Colin Kubik said the wine and dine during opening day is brilliant. Brian Benstock had a bunch of different comments, including love this, that data is eye-opening where lost customers purchased. You keyed in on that, Yossi. That's a fascinating part of the conversation. So a lot of good interaction today from our audience.
Excellent. I see another comment even.
Strong,
great guy. Love it.
Great guy. You've got some fans out there in the CDG.
Great show,
world,
Sam.
So.
That was fun.
All right.
Excellent show.
Next up is Wednesday. So Yossi and our Daily Dealer Live audience, thanks for watching Daily Dealer Live, where we break down those biggest moves in the car business as they happen. Don't forget, we're live here every Monday. That's today. Wednesday, we'll be back. And Friday, so if it's your world, hit like, subscribe, turn on those notifications so you never, ever, ever miss a beat. We'll see everybody next episode.